and welcome to this edition of Ask Klein Math. Today we're going to be looking at two second grade TEKs together because they really are partners with each other when you work with number lines. Those are TEKs 2.2e and 2.2f, which asks us to locate the position of a given whole number on an open number line and name the whole number that corresponds to a specific point on a number line. So today we're going to be working with both number lines with tick marks on them to help us know exactly what the scale is on the number line, as well as an open number line, which sometimes has a beginning point and an end point, but no midpoints marked on it. And sometimes it doesn't even have an end point. Sometimes an open number line will have a beginning point or no point at all, and it's our job to put the numbers on the number line. So first, let's look at this problem number 1. It asks us to write the numbers for the points on the number line. So we're going to start our number line, and of course we're not starting at 0. Number lines don't have to start at 0, and that's a really important concept. Sometimes we see a number line that can start anywhere. Our particular number line starts at 200. Our next jump on the number line is 210. Our next jump is 220. Our next jump is 230. So we see a pattern begin to be established with our number line. Not all number lines are just counting by 1. If we were counting by 1, this would be 200 and the next number would be 201, but it's not. It's 210. So we saw our change happen here in the tens place. We saw us go from zeros to 10, and then to 20, and then to 30. So when we see that pattern, 0, 10, 20, 30, we know that we're counting by tens, just like we learned how to do way back in kindergarten. So we're going to continue this pattern on our number line, and we're going to fill in these blanks that don't have a number already written for them. So if we start at 200, 210, 220, 230, next would be 240. 10, 20, 30, 40. They filled in 250 for us. But look, they didn't fill in this number and they didn't put a box there. That doesn't mean we don't get to count it. We have to count it because then we're going on to the next spot on the number line where they did put a box and they want us to fill that in. You have to be really careful. Sometimes there's an extra tick mark on the number line and you cannot skip it. So we're going to continue our pattern. 240, 250. This would be 260, and I liked for my students to write that under there just so I could know that they were paying attention and they saw that tick mark and they counted it. Then in the next box, we count on 50, 60, 270 would go in the box. Ah, look, they did it again. So this mark's going to be 280. Next one that comes is 290, and then here is a blank box. What comes after 90? I have to switch my tens and think about that. Sometimes if I got really stuck on something with my students, if they were really stuck there, I would say go to your 90, and then we're going to continue our pattern by 10. See, here's 60, 70, 80, 90. Remember on your number chart, when you move up and down, you're moving by tens. So what's going to come after 90 is going to be 100. So let's go back and think about that with relation to our number chart. So are we going to have 270, 280, 290, 100? No, that's not how you count. What would be next? 270, 280, 290, then you would cross over to the next century mark, which would be 300. All right, next is a practice on an open number line. So you see we have a beginning number with a tick mark and we have an ending number with a tick mark, but there is nothing in the middle. And we are asked here to draw and label points for 310, 348, and 420. So this is a problem about thinking. It's about reasoning and making our answer as reasonable as we possibly can. So when I look at the number 310, I'm going to ask myself, on this number line, is 310 going to be closer to 300 or is it going to be closer to 430? Well, I know from 300 to 310 is not going to be a very big jump. So I'm going to take my 310 and I'm going to put it close down here to 300. And I'm going to label my 310 there. I'm going to cross that off so that I know I took care of that one. Okay, I don't always do these in the order because the next one that I look at, look, I've got 420 and 430. Those are close neighbors to each other too. I can figure that out pretty quickly. So I'm going to put, I know 420 is a little less, but it would be a pretty close neighbor to 430. So I'm going to go ahead and put it down there by 430. Now my number that I'm left with is 348. Well, 348 is not really close to 310, and it's not really close to 420 either. That's a little more challenging. So I might go back to my 120 chart again. I want to start with, I'm going to take off the hundreds numbers and I'm just going to look at the tens numbers. I'm going to look at 300 at 10 and I'm going to look here at 420. Okay. So when I look at those, I'm going to think about between 10 and 20, what number would I see? In the ones place especially, I see a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That 8 kind of falls in between those numbers, doesn't it? So my 348 is going to need to go somewhere between these numbers, right? So if I start with 310 and I think how many jumps would I need to get to 340? So if this was 310, and I'm going to do it real lightly with my pencil, 300 to 310, 20, 30, 40. Well, I'm going to land somewhere down here, and after 40 would come 50. So I'm going to land somewhere down here and kind of in the middle of my number line. And because this doesn't ask me for an exact location of that, there's no tick marks here, I'm going to think about making my point land somewhere about the middle of my number line and see if 348 would be okay right there. 348 would be between 340 and 350. So I could count on, I could say 360, 370, 380, 390, 400, 420. I didn't count, I did 10, 420. I didn't do my numbers really evenly there, but the main thing that they want me to see in this number line is that 310 would be close to 300, that 420 would be close to 430, and that 348 would land somewhere in the middle of those two numbers that I placed. Okay. All right, and then this is our last problem, and it asks us about points on the number line for 525, 560, and a mystery number. I love these kinds of problems because I have to figure out what the mystery number might be. So I'm going to place 525 and I'm going to place 560. So let's take a look at my number line. I've got 300, I've got 400, I've got 500, and I've got 600. Well, look, I've got a 500 for this number, and I've got a 500 for this number. So I know that they're going to go down here in this part of the number line that 500 owns. 500 owns all the numbers all the way to 599, and then they turn the numbers over to 600. So somewhere in this 500 section, these two 500 numbers are going to go. So then I'm going to go to my tens place and look at that. My tens number here is 25 and my tens number here is 60. So I'm going to look at these and I'm going to say 500 with 25. Is 25 closer to the 0 end, to the 500 end, or to the 600 end, which would be like 100 more? So would 25 be closer to 0 or to 100? 25 would be closer to 0. So I'm going to put my 525 in this slot. What about 560? 60 would be closer to 100. So I'm going to put 560 in that slot. And then it asks me for a mystery number. Wow, I get to pick my own number for this slot. But what do I know? There's a few things that I know. I know that I have a 300 and I have a 400. So who owns these numbers between 300 and 400? 300 owns those numbers. All of those numbers have a 3 in their hundreds place all the way to 399 before ownership changes over to 400. So this number that I have is in the 300s, but look, it's pretty close to 400. Well, look what I had down here. I had 560 that was closer to 600. So I'm going to need a number with a 300 on it, but I'm going to have to think about what number that I want that's closer to 400. I think I like 366. So let's see if that will fit. Is 366 a number that's in these 300s? Yes. And is it a number that's a pretty close neighbor to 400, closer than it is to 300? Yes, the answer to that is yes. So your 366 or another number that you choose might work there. Now, we have to think about a number like 340. 340 would be closer to this end of your number line than it would be to the 400 end of your number line. So you have to kind of think about which end of your number line is your number going to be closer to. There's one more problem that I want to show you on this one, and it is this problem right here where it asks us to label the points for 300, 345, and 375 on the number line. And look, we have no tick marks, we have no boxes, and this time with our number line, we only have our starting number. We don't have another number on this end of the number line to tell us where it ends. So this number line is completely open. And again, we're going to position these numbers on the number line where we think they live in the neighborhood. This would be like going down your neighborhood street and saying, well, this is house number 300, this is house number 345, and this is house number 375. So we're going to have to look and see what we think on that. So our first number is 275. We're going to count from 275 to 300. So am I going to be right next door neighbors to 275? No, I'm not going to be right next door neighbors, but I'm probably not going to move over way to the other end of the number line because I know that I have some other numbers that need to go on the other end of my number line. So I'm going to put my 300 number just a little ways away from 275. I know it's the smallest number that I'm putting on my number line, so I'm going to put it down on the smaller end closer to 275. Again, I'm going to jump around because I see that 375 is my largest number. So I know that I can put it down here on the other end of my number line because I'm not going to have a number that is larger than that. That took care of two of my numbers. And now I need to put 345 somewhere in between in this 300 part that is owned by those numbers. So somewhere between 300 and 375. Well, 345. Let's look at our number chart again. If we have our numbers here and we start at 0 and we're going all the way to 75, Where's 45? It's kind of, oh, I'm going to go over to here. I'm going to come up to here. It's kind of somewhere in the middle between where I started and where I ended. It's kind of in the middle of my number chart. So I'm going to do that for my number line as well. I'm going to put it somewhere in between those two numbers. 345 would live in this area right there. When you have an open number line like that, you don't have to be exact with where you put your number on the open number line, but you do have to use your thinking and think about which number it would be closer to, if it would be a neighbor to 300, a neighbor to 375, or if it would be somewhere in the middle. Open number lines are a lot of fun, great practice, great conversation with your friends. Keep working on those, and I know that you will get better and better at your place value as you look at it on an open number line.